My father's hand cracked across my face so hard, I hit the floor. My vision blurred, my ears rang, and all I could hear was his voice thundering, "You lying woman, that baby isn't welcome in this house." My stepmother folded her arms and sneered, "Don't worry. Our real daughter will bring us pride." My brother? He didn't flinch, just pointed at me like I was filth. "You shamed this family." And I said nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just held my stomach and walked out the door with no plan, no money, no support. That was 5 years ago. Today they came to my eyes downcast, desperate, begging for help. But the girl they broke doesn't exist anymore. And I wasn't here to save them. I was here to remember exactly who I became without them. Growing up, I always felt like I was renting space in my own family. My mom passed away when I was 7. I remember her only in flashes, warm voice humming while brushing my hair, the way she used to leave sticky notes in my lunchbox. After she died, everything in our house turned cold. 2 years later, my dad married Tanya. She was poised, beautiful, and always wore a smile that never reached her eyes when she looked at me. That's when things changed. Not all at once, but in small, quiet ways that only a child would notice. She rearranged the house. My mom's photos were taken down, her favorite blanket donated, her recipe box tossed out. Then came Avami half-sister, the real daughter. That's what Tanya called her. Our daughter, our little miracle. As if I was just borrowed. My father, David, wasn't a bad man in the beginning, but he was a weak one, the kind who avoided conflict by ignoring it. When Tanya made cutting remarks about me, "Claire's always so moody. Why does she dress like that?" He never defended me, he'd just mutter something about teenage hormones and leave the room. By the time I turned 15, I had learned to stay invisible. I did well in school, kept quiet, followed rules. But no matter what I did, Ava shined brighter in their eyes. She got praise for the smallest things, drawing a stick figure. Genius. Reading one book. Gifted. I once won a statewide science award, and my father didn't even show up to the ceremony. "We had Ava's dance recital," he said, not even apologizing. That house was never home. It was a performance space. I was the understudy they forgot was even in the play. Still, I kept hoping that if I just tried harder, got better grades, smiled more, stayed quiet, I might be loved again the way I was before my mother died. But love doesn't come with conditions, and their love, if it existed, was buried under so many rules and expectations that I couldn't breathe. So I stopped trying. And just when I thought I had nothing left to lose, I fell in love with the one boy who saw me, really saw me, and everything spiraled from there. His name was Noah Bennett. He transferred to my high school junior year. He was quiet, kept to himself, but when he spoke, it was like the world paused to listen. He was the first person who looked me in the eye and actually saw me know the disappointment Tanya whispered about behind closed doors, not the invisible shadow next to Ava. We first spoke in chemistry class. He sat beside me and joked that I looked like I actually knew what I was doing. I did. Science had always been my safe place. He smiled and said, "Teach me something." From then on, we talked every day. About everything. Music, dead poets, how we both felt like outsiders in our own homes. His mom worked nights. His dad wasn't in the picture. He understood loneliness, not the dramatic kind, but the dull ache of going unnoticed. One Friday afternoon, we skipped class and drove out past the edge of town. We sat on the hood of his truck, watching the stars. That night, I told him about my mom, about Tanya, about how I sometimes felt like a ghost in my own life. He listened, really listened, and when I cried, he didn't try to fix it. He just held my hand. I fell hard, not because he was perfect, but because he was present. Because in a world that treated me like a burden, Noah made me feel like a person. It wasn't planned. We didn't rush anything, but when it happened, when we crossed that line, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like coming home. We were careful, or so I thought. But a few weeks later, I noticed the changes. At first, I dismissed it just stress, School, late nights. But then I missed a period. Then another. The nausea in the mornings. The dizziness. I bought a test. Then two more. All positive. I was 17. And pregnant. The room spun when I saw the lines. I sat in the bathroom, clutching the plastic stick, unable to breathe. I told Noah the next day, heart pounding. His reaction was quiet. Too quiet. I need time to think, he said. I never saw him again. He stopped answering my texts, blocked me on everything, gone. The one person who saw me had disappeared, and I was left to face it alone. For a week, I kept it secret, unsure what to do. I walked through school like a ghost again, pretending I was okay, pretending the weight in my stomach wasn't growing heavier every day. But secrets have a way of spilling out. Tanya found the test hidden under my bed, and that's when everything exploded. It was a Sunday afternoon. I came home from a shift at the library to find my bedroom door wide open. Tanya was standing in the middle of the room, holding something in her hand. At first, I couldn't tell what it was. Then I saw the pink strip. The pregnancy test. My blood turned to ice. She didn't scream. Not at first. Tanya was never one for chaos. Liked her cruelty sharp and calculated. She raised the stick like it was evidence in a trial, and said in a voice cold enough to freeze the air, "Is this yours?" I couldn't lie. I didn't even try. I nodded once, my voice barely a whisper. Yes. The silence was worse than yelling. It was the pause before a bomb goes off. Then I heard footsteps, Dad's. Heavy, impatient. He stepped in, took one look at Tanya's face, and then at me. "What's going on?" "She's pregnant," Tanya said flatly. For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at me like I was a stranger. Then, like a switch had flipped, his expression twisted into rage. "You lying little girl," he hissed. "How long have you been hiding this?" "Two was going to tell you," I stammered. "I just needed time." "Time?" he bellowed. "To bring more shame on this family?" And then it happened. I didn't even see it coming. His hand hit me so hard, I spun and slammed into the floor. Pain bloomed across my cheek. My head rang. I clutched my side, the baby, my baby, and tried to breathe. Tanya didn't rush to help. She didn't gasp or intervene. She just crossed her arms and said with a satisfied sneer, "Don't worry. Ava will bring us pride. We still have one real daughter." I lay there in silence. Still. Shocked. Ashamed. And suddenly aware that no one was coming to my defense. Then came Caleb, me brother. 2 years older. Star athlete. Golden boy. He stood at the door, looking down at me with disgust. "You're disgusting," he snapped. "You've shamed this family." I opened my mouth to speak, but there were no words left in me. Dad stood over me, voice shaking with fury. "Pack your things. You're out. You think you can ruin this family and stay under my roof?" "Where will I go?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Figure it out," he spat. "That bastard child isn't welcome here." I remember Tanya turning off the light in my room as she left, as if she was shutting a chapter. No one helped me to my feet. No one asked if I was okay. They didn't even wait for me to leave. They went back to their dinner like I'd been scraped off the table. I packed in the dark. One small suitcase, a phone charger, 2 pairs of clothes. My mother's locket, I had hidden it behind an old book years ago. It was the only thing of hers they hadn't thrown out. And then I walked out the front door into the freezing night, 17, pregnant, and completely alone. I didn't cry. Not yet. Some part of me had already begun the process of letting them go. It was nearly midnight when I found myself sitting at the 24-hour bus stop downtown, hugging my knees, my breath fogging in the cold air. My phone was down to 6%. I had no friends I could call. Most of them were from school, nice on the surface, but not the kind of people who'd open their homes to a pregnant girl who just got kicked out. I checked my bank app. $38.17. It wouldn't get me far. Maybe 2 nights at a budget motel if I skipped meals. I didn't cry. Not yet. But the loneliness had begun to settle into my bones like frost. I stayed there until the sun came up, numb and stiff and hungry, and that's when she found me. Her name was Evelyn Grant. She ran a bakery on the corner called Flower, Light, and she opened early before the streetlights even went out. I must have looked pitiful, because she paused as she unlocked the door, then walked over slowly. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice warm and cautious. I nodded, then shook my head, unsure which answer was true. "You hungry?" I hesitated, then nodded. She didn't ask more, just opened the door and motioned me inside. The smell hit me, first cinnamon, vanilla, fresh bread. Warmth wrapped around me like a blanket, and for the first time in hours, I felt human again. She poured me a cup of cocoa and set down a buttered croissant, still warm from the oven. I could barely get through 3 bites before the tears came. Evelyn didn't flinch. She just pulled up a chair, waited, and handed me a tissue when I needed one. I told her everything between gulps of chocolate and sobs I'd been holding for days. She didn't interrupt, didn't judge, just listened, and placed a gentle hand on mine when I finished. "That baby's lucky to have you," she said simply. That was the first time someone said the word, baby, without spitting it like a curse. Evelyn let me stay in the storage room above the bakery that night. It wasn't much, a cot, a lamp, and a space heater, but it was more than I'd had in days. She said I could help around the bakery to earn my keep. "I don't believe in charity," she said, "but I do believe in second chances." That first night, lying in the warmth of that little room, I rested my hand on my stomach and whispered to the life growing inside me, "I don't know how we're going to make it, but we will." It was the first time I believed it. Living above Flower, Light was never meant to be permanent, but somehow, it became the first place that felt like home in years. Evelyn gave me more than a roof and warm food. She gave me routine, structure, dignity. I woke up at 5 every morning to help prep dough, roll croissants, wipe counters. I learned how to handle the register, greet customers, even decorate cupcakes. By week 2, Evelyn said I had good hands and let me experiment with icing flowers. That small praise meant more to me than a decade of empty silence from home. I was still scared. Every cramp made me panic. Every passing glance made me feel judged. But for the first time in a long time, I also felt useful. I signed up for free prenatal classes at the community center. Evelyn drove me to the first one herself, and when I told her I couldn't pay, she just waved her hand. "You'll pay me back by thriving." My body ached, my feet swelled, and I could barely keep my eyes open some nights. But I was working, preparing, becoming. I started journaling. Evelyn encouraged it. She said, "Write down who you are now so you never forget how far you've come." I wrote to my unborn child every night. "You don't have a crib yet, or clothes, but you have me, and I'm learning to be enough." It was terrifying and beautiful. Some nights, fear crept in. What if I couldn't do it alone? What if I failed? But then I'd remember my father's face contorted with rage, calling my baby a mistake. And suddenly, I was more determined than afraid. I worked through my second trimester. On slow afternoons, Evelyn taught me how to balance the bakery's books. She once ran a catering business and said, "If you ever want to run something of your own, you need to know your numbers." I started to dream not wild dreams, just small ones, of my own apartment, of holding my baby wrapped in a soft yellow blanket, of no longer looking over my shoulder when I said I was a mother. One evening, Evelyn placed a tiny wrapped box in front of me. Inside was a hand-knitted baby hatsoft, pale blue, and a note. "You're not alone, Claire. You never were." I cried into my cinnamon roll. Every day wasn't easy, but every day was progress. I still didn't know what kind of future I was building, but for the first time, it was mine. And every kick I felt from inside reminded me I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was becoming. Luna was born on a rainy Thursday night. I still remember the sound her first cry. Sharp, defiant, full of life. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Evelyn held my hand through all 12 hours of labor. She whispered steady words and wiped my forehead when I thought I couldn't go on. And when they placed my daughter on my chest, something shifted inside me like the world finally made sense. I named her Luna because she was my moon-me quiet light in the darkest time of my life. She was small, but strong. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and eyes like melted slate. No trace of the shame my family had hurled at her. Only wonder. Only innocence. Bringing Luna home to the bakery loft was surreal. The cot was gone, replaced by a proper bed. A second-hand crib stood by the window, draped in soft yellow blankets Evelyn had found at a church sale. My journal sat on the nightstand, now filled with months of letters. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Caring for Luna was nothing like I imagined, and everything I needed. Her cries pierced the night, her diapers were endless, and I constantly worried I was doing everything wrong. But every coo, every fluttering eyelid as she slept on my chest, every tiny yawn it grounded me. I went back to working part-time at the bakery after 6 weeks. Evelyn had hired a quiet older woman named Marcia to help watch Luna during shifts. She became like a grandmother to her, humming lullabies while folding dough. As Luna grew, so did something inside me. I enrolled in a free online business course. I worked late into the night watching lectures while Luna slept, scribbling ideas in the margins of my journal. I started sketching product ideas: natural baby lotions, handmade teething rings, organic snack bars. Every idea came from something I'd needed and couldn't find. The vision was still small, but it was real, tangible, mine. I called it Root Plus Rising, because we'd been planted in pain, but we were growing towards something bigger. By the time Luna turned 2, I had my first local order, a small set of baby gift boxes for a friend of a friend's baby shower. I hand-packed them at the bakery, tied each with twine, and cried when I saw the customer smile. Word spread. Slowly. Then faster. Within a year, I had a modest website, a loyal customer base, and a rented corner in Evelyn's bakery for my displays. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. But I was independent. I was a mother. I was Claire Dawsonot, the disgrace they cast out, but the woman they never expected me to become. And as Luna's laughter filled our tiny apartment above the shop, I knew one thing for certain. We were building a life. Not from what they gave us, but from what they tried to take away. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the email arrived. Subject line: urgent. Family emergency. At first, I thought it was spam. But then I saw the name, Caleb Dawson. My brother. I hadn't heard from him in over 5 years. Not a birthday, not a congratulations, not even a cold silence. Just nothing. I didn't open it right away. I stared at the screen, Luna playing quietly in the corner with her crayons, completely unaware that the ghosts of our past were reaching through the screen. When I finally opened it, the message was short. Claire, please call. It's Dad. He's sick. It's serious. We need your help financially. Ava's in college. Mom doesn't work. We can't cover the treatments. Please. We're desperate. No apology. No. We were wrong. Just need. I didn't reply. Not immediately. Instead, I picked Luna up, took her to the park, and watched her giggle as she chased butterflies. I studied her little frame, her dimple when she smiled, the soft golden hair that caught the sunlight. She was my miracle. She was the reason I'd survived. And they had wanted her gone. They had called her a disgrace, had cast me out because she existed. And now they wanted something from us. 2 days later, they showed up at Flower, Light. I was at the front counter. Evelyn was in the back frosting cupcakes. Luna was drawing on the floor behind me, humming softly. The bell above the door chimed. I turned and the air left my lungs. Tanya. Caleb. And my father. He was thinner, paler, worn down in a way that life tends to do when you've built everything on pride and watched it crumble. Tanya wore a hollow expression. Caleb wouldn't even meet my eyes. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then, my father stepped forward, slowly, and said my name like it hurt him. Claire. I didn't respond. He tried again. I'm sorry. For everything. I was wrong. 5 years too late. Tanya stepped in, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. We didn't know how far you'd come. We didn't know how strong you were. No, I said. You didn't want to know. They looked down, ashamed. Please, Caleb finally said. He needs a treatment that costs more than we can cover. We lost our home. Ava's tuition drained our savings. We have nowhere else to go. My fingers curled against the countertop. I glanced at Luna, still humming, her little feet swinging beneath her chair. They had left us with nothing. And now they wanted help. I stood tall. I remember the night you threw me out, I said. I remember the slap, the words, the silence. Not one of you called. Not when I gave birth. Not when I struggled to buy diapers. Not when I launched a business from a storage room. My father's eyes filled with tears. I know, he choked. I've lived with that guilt every day. Then you can keep living with it, I said. Because I built this life without you, and I won't let you back in just because you finally realize I was worth something. Tanya tried to speak, but I raised my hand. You told me I wasn't your real daughter. You said your pride rested with Ava, so go to her. Caleb opened his mouth, but Luna looked up and said, Mommy, who are they? The word hit them like a hammer. Mommy. Not daughter. Not sister. Mommy. My title. My identity. My earned role. No one important, baby, I replied gently. Just people from the past. I bent down, lifted Luna into my arms, and turned back to them one last time. You didn't want this child. You didn't want me. And now that you're desperate, you don't get to knock on this door and pretend none of it happened. Please, my father whispered. We're sorry. Then be sorry, I said quietly. But don't ask me to fix the consequences of your cruelty. I turned and walked to the back room. Evelyn met me with misty eyes and a knowing nod. Luna tugged at my sleeve. Mommy, are you okay? I am now, I whispered. And I meant it. After they left the bakery that day, I didn't cry. I didn't shake, or collapse, or second-guess myself the way I might have years ago. I just stood in the back room, holding my daughter, and breathing. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't even triumph. It was peace. The kind that settles deep in your bones when you finally understand. You don't need anyone's apology to move forward. You don't need justice to begin healing. You don't need the people who broke you to witness your rise. You just need to truly live without them. Luna and I went home that night, made grilled cheese sandwiches, and watched cartoons. She fell asleep in my lap, one hand tucked into my sweater. I looked down at her and whispered, They didn't want us, but we became everything they're not. That night I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. Today, I told them no. Not because I'm cruel, not because I want revenge, but because I remember. I remember the floor. I remember his hand. I remember being called a liar, a disgrace, a mistake. And I remember choosing to leave it all behind. Saying no is not an act of hate. It's an act of self-respect. In the weeks that followed, they tried again. Caleb sent messages. Tanya mailed a letter. Even Avahu had said nothing, all those years sent a single text. I didn't know it was that bad. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Closure doesn't always require a conversation. Sometimes, it's just a locked door and a quiet mind. My business grew. Evelyn retired and left the bakery to me. Flour. Light became flour. Luna. With a second story full of handmade goods for moms who once felt invisible. Luna's now in kindergarten. She runs into my arms every afternoon like I'm the whole world. And maybe, for her, I am. I don't tell her the full story. Not yet. She knows she's loved. That's enough for now. One day, she'll learn what we came from. And when she does, she'll know we didn't win by screaming back at the ones who hurt us. We won by never becoming like them. I used to think I wanted revenge. Now I know the real revenge was this. not just surviving their rejection, but building a life so whole, they'd never be allowed back in.